Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This? I'm Ashley, she, her.
And I'm Andi, she, they.
And we are diving back into the Heartstopper comics.
Yay!
Woo! Picking up where me and Alyssa left off. That's how long ago it's been since we talked about the comics.
It's been so long that I didn't even remember the method and the way in which you guys talked about them, because I haven't heard them since it was before season 3 that you released them. I feel like the last ones.
I think
or maybe you recorded some.
We recorded them all before season 3, but I think I released the last one after season 3, like right after, and then never came back to it. Which has been like
already a long time. God, time is like flying by.
1 year since I got this tattoo, and I know that I did that after we finished season 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I saw in my memories today that it was a year ago today. So that's crazy that it's already been a whole year.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yikes. All right. So Alyssa and I left off with Charlie has just recovered from fainting, and we got the Nick speaking French, and then it leaves out with them talking about Nick's dad, and they're hugging at the loo, and we get the I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you leaves. And we are picking up with getting on the coach. We see Mr. Ajayi is like herding them all onto the coach. And Tao and Charlie are still on the outs right now. Things are a little awkward. And we see Tao clock Nick and Charlie getting on the bus, and Aled whispers over to Nick, being a little shifty little mischievous man, says, "Sit with me," and let Tao and Charlie sit together and work out their shit.
I love that, by the way, that it's that somebody else is jumping in too, like that it's Allie who jumps in and not just Nick pushing them to get back together. I like that it's somebody else to, jump in and let's fix this friendship issue here.
Yeah. And Aled's probably like, let's also make sure that everything is okay in our room so that there's not awkwardness that I have to deal with. So Charlie and Tao sit down next to each other, and I do think it's funny that Tao is like on the out. He's like sitting on the aisle seat, and then Charlie comes over, and he's like, instead of making Charlie like get in and take the window, he just scoots over and lets Charlie have the aisle seat. Like he's already making space for Charlie to like have this discussion.
Yeah, I kind of look at it as like he's like inviting him, like like you said, making space. Like he's it's like his unsaid question.
Yeah, it's like an olive branch. It's not like you want the empty seat next to me. It's here, please sit with me. And Tao says, "Hey, I heard you passed out. Are you okay?" And Charlie says, "Oh yeah, I hadn't eaten enough, I think." And Tao's like, "But you feel better now?" And Charlie says, "Yeah, I had a croissant and then a sandwich a bit after that. So yeah, I'm good." And Tao's just like, "Okay, good." And there's this like awkward silence panel. And then at the same time, they both start talking. And Tao's like, "I'm so sorry for reacting badly yesterday." And Charlie says, "It's not your fault." And he says, It is my fault. I feel horrible about fucking up last year, and I shouldn't pass that guilt on to you. I made a really stupid, idiotic mistake, and you suffered really badly because of it. I don't think I even understood how hard it must have been for you to come out to me. So I will be a better friend and less of an idiot, I promise." And we get that okay with a smiley face. I love when Alice puts smiley faces in the text bubble.
Yeah. It's just funny how he's just like so quickly like, okay, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah. Tao's over here stressing and sweating.
Yeah.
Charlie's like, "It's okay." Charlie's so cute in that panel too.
He is.
And then Tao says, "Also, I'm genuinely happy for you. Your crush on him was extreme." And then Nick pops his little head in and is like, "Are you talking about me?" Yeah. So cute.
That's such a good, like, teenager way of showing it, too. How it just, like, you talking about me?
Yeah. And it shows you that he was, like, listening, too, right?
Yeah,
like, he was
they were
invested.
paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like, this whole section, Charlie, is so cute. And he's, like, now he's, like, curling up on himself. He's, like, embarrassed. And and I have to love the call out, even, like, to the, you know, Twilight girlies, that it was Twilight levels of pining.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really funny to me.
And he's like, stop revealing what a loser I am.
Meanwhile, Nick just has a heart.
A little heart. I know. He's like, my loser.
Yeah. He's like, I'm obsessed with you, so it doesn't matter how much you were pining over me.
Right, yeah. And then Charlie says, at least I had the guts to actually tell Nick I liked him, unlike you and Elle. Oop, mic drop. And Tal says, well, actually. And Nick and Charlie are both like, oh my God, what? And Charlie says, did something happen? And Tal covers his face and says, we kissed earlier in the Louvre. And Charlie says, what? And then Nick just has like the exclamation marks above his head. And Alan is confused.
Alan has a little question. Yeah, it's like, what?
Charlie hugs him and says, I'm so proud of you. And Tal's like, shut up. Alan's catching up. He's like, you kissed? And Nick wants all the details. Charlie's like, does this mean you're dating? And Tal says, leave me alone.
And this is such a funny, like, I feel like it was a lot more dramatic, this part in the show, because they're like all in the same room and like actually tackling each other and like really being like really, really giggly. But to be fair, I actually think probably the way it happens in the comic is probably a little more accurate to the way teenage boys would actually be about this. They'd be like, oh, I want to know, but I don't know they'd be quite so tackly of each other the way
this is
that
just
Charlie
is in
the thing.
This is a very tactile friend group.
Yes.
Which I will say is that
maybe
tracks with like the youth that I know now. Like what are they, Gen Alpha? Like they're all like very touchy with their friends. So it wouldn't surprise me. But definitely like millennial teen boys, maybe even Gen Z teen boys, like they wouldn't be hugging on each other the way that these guys were.
I think my boys would be more like, it'd be more like roughhousey. Like, know, like, it wouldn't be so, and I have a queer son and a very, very affectionate, my other son is very, very affectionate. So, but like with their friends, it's a little different. You know, they're still a little like, oh, I just don't know. But anyways, I think it's so cute just to see how much they love and support each other in this, you know?
Yeah. So then we follow our leaves on down to Paris, day 5. Charlie's stretching, Tal's yawning, and then Charlie like lovingly looks over at Nick, who's asleep. And then Tal starts to catch up. He said, that actually is a love bite, isn't it? Like everyone's been saying. And then you see Nick like raise up and look like,
and the Nick face on this, I know this is jumping way ahead in the comics, but that face is exactly like the one that he has in the final one where they have sex before school, and he's like, what did you do to my hair? It's exactly that same face, like popping up with his head all, like his hair all fussed up. So funny.
And then Tal, being brilliant, is like, why didn't you just borrow some makeup from the girls? And then we get this Nick panel and Charlie panel side by side with, in the middle, did not think of that. And then half an hour later, my skin's a bit lighter than yours, but it'll probably be fine. And then Elle says, well, you could probably mix it with some of mine. And so I love the fact that they're like mixing their concealers together to like make a Charlie shade.
Yeah. I gotta wonder if like, because Alice was releasing this like, you know, daily, if when they were writing it, they just didn't think of that either. And then somebody pointed it out and then it got added to the story. I don't know. That's just like a little, that's just like a little thought, because I was like, it's always comical to me that they would not have thought of that, or that one of the girls, when they first saw it, wasn't like immediately like, we know how to cover up our zits with our concealer. Yeah. Let's just do that, you know?
Like in the show, it doesn't make sense that Imogen wasn't like on it, you know? Mm-hmm. Like Imogen of all people with her skincare products, we heard her packing and everything, like could have fixed him up.
Yes.
But I guess she also was just like in the Ben headspace too during this trip. So maybe she didn't even think of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see them all together, and Tara's like, how did this even happen? Kind of a bad time to get a love bite. And Nick says, it's my fault. His little face. And Charlie's like, no, it was both of our faults. And Darcy says, kind of TMI, guys. And I'm like, is it though? You're covering up the hickey. They're not giving details.
And of all of the people in the group, she'd be the one who would want all of the TMI anyways.
Yeah, 100%.
Sorry, am I using the right pronoun? Darcy is still she at this point. Sorry about that. I don't want to be inappropriate with that.
I slipped and said she during the live watch too, but I was like, well, we haven't gotten to the transition yet. So.
I know it's a hard thing. It's a hard line to know. Like, at what point do you
retroactive
for sure make sure that you do it correctly? Yeah.
Yeah. So Darcy finishes up. Charlie asks Nick, can you see it? He says, no. And then Tal says, well, Charlie, I'm glad you found a boyfriend as idiotic as you. So cute.
So good.
And then we go on over to Shakespeare & Co., which is like one of my favorite sections.
Yeah, I love the artistry of all, like when there's like a lot of background stuff behind it. It's so pretty and it's like so much attention to detail.
Yeah. I also love how accurate they got this in the show, where it goes from like the group outside to like Tao and Elle at a shelf over to like Nick taking the picture of Charlie with the book, and then we see them like kind of exploring around, and it's just, I know that they expanded it some for the show just to make it more cinematic, but I think they did a really good job of this like montage.
Yeah, they did a good job including all of these panels to some degree or another in that montage.
Yeah.
I also think it's funny that the little insert, maybe they're supposed to be Facebook still, but anyways, whichever social media posts that they have of the two of them post, and they're like commenting on each other's things, and it's like, guys, you are so not subtle, and somehow they still think they're hiding.
I know. I do think this is Instagram at this point.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely an Instagram setup.
It looks more like Instagram on the setup there.
For sure. So we see them eating, it almost looks like pizza. And then you can tell that Charlie's struggling. And so Nick says, are you okay? And he says, yeah, I think so. And Nick cracks a joke. So how about trying some frog legs? He says, no, which got me thinking, are frog legs like a French thing? Because they're a Southern thing, for sure. Like, I grew up frog gigging and, like, frying frog's legs. So, like, that's definitely a Southern thing. And I just, like, hadn't thought about where it came from. Which it would make sense because, like, maybe it came up from, like, Louisiana to, like, my part of the South. And Louisiana is super French, so...
Interesting. I don't know.
But yes, we get the beautiful photo of Charlie. Nick posts it calling him a nerd. Charlie says it's rude. And he's like, fortunately for you, I like nerds. And just the eye emojis is all Charlie's. I'm like, this is, There were rumors. We just don't get to hear them. Yeah. So then it says that night, ... And Charlie's leading Nick down the hallway. He says, come on, there's a little alcove by the vending machines. And Nick says, did you see this place and think, yep, me and Nick are going to make out there? Charlie's like, maybe.
Maybe. Well, of course I did.
Yeah.
Because that's what teenagers do, right?
Like, oh, that's a private spot. I'm coming back to that later.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. And then we hear chatter, 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 and the teachers walk up. And I love this panel of them, like, peeking around the vending machine, looking at the teachers. And Farouk says, "It's past 11, boys. You should be in your room." And Nick says, "But sir, we're just," and he says, "Off you go." And this is when we get Ajayi saying, "You couldn't let them off? They're clearly dating." And Farouk's like, "They're dating?" And I love just like the ... from Ajayi, like,
yeah.
Open your eyes. Didn't you see his Instagram post? And he says, "Seems fairly obvious to me. I'm pretty sure I did the exact same thing at that age, sneaking around like that with a boy." And Farouk kind of busies himself with his own vending machine. And Ajayi says, "Come on, you never snuck off with a boy on a school trip when you were their age?" And Mr. Farouk says, "Well, when you don't come to terms with your sexuality until your mid-20s, you tend to miss out on those beautiful gay teenage experiences." And Mr. Ajayi is like a little shocked because he's like, "That recent? Aren't you only 26? And he's like, "Yep." And he says, "Probably a bit late for me to have any youthful moments of discovery." And Mr. Ajayi says, "I don't think there's an age limit on that, to be honest." And then we get the, "Are you flirting with me? Maybe." And then he says, "We better get back to our room. Come on," and starts to walk away. And Mr. Farouk is left fucking reeling from that exchange.
I think this is one of the cutest little scenes in there. Like we said before, we could like read a whole story about them or watch a whole little side story about them. But I'm curious do we think that Ajayi like has just so clocked this, or have they talked about this before? Because I feel like it'd be a little bit bold to just say it if he didn't know for sure.
Yeah, and in the show, it's a little more of a feeler, right? He says like, "You never did that with anyone."
And then he's like, "I'm pretty sure I did that with a boy." And he like leaves it to him to do. I don't know. It feels a little more like he already knows here.
They have been sharing a room though, so maybe he has just sussed it out.
I hope so. I would love to see that scene, I guess was my whole point of the question.
Yes,
like
I would love to see
that would be something
lot.
that could be, addressed in a story just about them.
Yeah, I would love to see more about them and like but I would want it to be retroactive, right? Like I want to see what's happening. They don't have to show us the Heartstopper characters. They can just mention it to keep us on a timeline, But I would love to like go back and see like their entire getting together process.
Yeah, I would too. And like there have been some like fics that has stuff about them in the background, but it's never like the main story.
Right.
So it would be kind of fun to see one like that. Or for Alice to write one like that. I think it'd be a cool like adult romance to write.
They could make a movie. They could do a spin-off movie about them.
Would totally watch it.
So we go to Paris, day 6, and they are singing happy birthday to Darcy, who's turning to Tara, who is turning 16. And she says, "I'm literally so embarrassed right now," which same. Please don't sing to me in public.
Yeah, I would be like one of those people who would not let wear one of the badges. Like, no, I do not want attention on my birthday at all.
I want attention from the people that I know, but I don't want outside attention on my birthday.
Yeah, I've just never been a big birthday person. It's not a big thing for me, so I'm just like whatever. I love Darcy's shirt has ghosts on it.
Yeah, very cute.
It's cute.
So then we see Mr. Ajayi clapping. He says, "Okay, Higgs and Trum students, quiet please." And then we get the shot of them all continuing to chatter. And then Farouk steps in, "Quiet." And I love that Mr. Ajayi even like kind of stumbles over this. He says, "Thank you." And then he says, "You, Mr. Farouk," and I'm like, "Oop, he almost slipped up and called him Yusuf."
Yep.
So they're getting more comfortable with each other. He says, "Now everyone, I know it's our last full day here in Paris, and it's Tara's birthday, so I know you might want to have a little party in your rooms tonight. Well, we're not going to ban that, but please make sure you're being safe, and please keep the noise down." Nick says, "A party?" And Darcy says, "A party!"
It's like the idea didn't occur to them until the teachers brought it up.
I think Darcy probably had already been thinking about it, but not Nick. Nick was like, "Oh, that's a good idea."
Yeah.
And we
can have a party.
Right. We do get this one panel that I often skip past without really paying much attention, but it is Harry sitting there looking like, oh, this is going to be a party I'm going to be left out of. And it's like, yeah, well.
Yeah. Like he's pensive about the idea. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Fruit jumps back in with, you can buy snacks and drinks while we're out today, but if I catch anyone with alcohol, there will be dire consequences, okay? And Darcy's like, challenge accepted. Tara's like, Darcy, how would you even get alcohol? Darcy says, you'll see, Jonesy, you'll see. And she says, he literally said we're not allowed. Darcy's like, you'll see.
I do think, to be fair, this feels a lot different to us as Americans than to people in the UK or to Europe, because I don't know about in France, but in Germany where I lived, like you could, I don't want to speak out of turn and be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure you were allowed to start drinking alcohol in your home with your parents when you were 14. You could buy beer when you were 16 and hard alcohol when you were 18. So I don't know what the rule is in Paris, but I do think also that the drinking age legally in the UK is 18. So, but many kids started a lot younger than that. And I know they do here in the US too, but it is like significantly harder and it carries a lot more of like
there's a lot more stigma.
There's a lot more stigma and weight. There's a lot more weight to it. Like if you did something like this at any of our school things, you would literally be like sent home that day. Like there would be no, you might get in trouble. You
might be suspended.
You'd be suspended and you'd be sent home from the trip. You wouldn't get to continue it. Your parents would have to come pick you up from the trip. You know, so like I think it makes a much bigger deal to us as Americans reading it, because the age difference of being allowed to drink is so much bigger.
Yeah. So we go back to another little group exploration montage. I should have written down what these monuments were because I don't know. Alyssa always
The first one is the Arc de Triomphe, where they have the.
Okay.
I have been there. And it's just like this thing in the middle of the city. It's like, what is this for? So it's funny that Nick says that, like, don't know what it's for. No Apparently, idea. I think that Trump is trying to build one like that here in the States, which I could go on a rant about that. But anyways.
I literally had nightmares last night. And Zach was like, what were the nightmares about? And I was like, Trump.
Yeah. And I woke up and it was the same nightmare.
Yeah. Oh, thank fuck it wasn't actually, though, because it was like he was like here. Physically here. And I was like, no. Anyway, I'll tell you about that later.
Anyways,
but yeah, so they're walking around town. We get these other Instagram shots. This is really the one. This is the incriminating one to me of them with like Nick has his arm around Charlie and Charlie's flashing the peace sign, and the caption is just a heart. And then Charlie commented a heart, and I was like, gay! That's so gay!
Yeah. I mean, it would be questionable if neither of these two boys were out, but one of them is out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, anyways, it's just funny.
Yep. And then we see Nick licking his little ice cream cone, and Charlie posted it. It's like caught in the act.
And also, they're the only people commenting on each other's Instagram things, too. Like,
nobody else.
That's also.
Nick says, so glad I can rely on you to take flattering photos of me. And Charlie says, this is revenge for the nerd photo. And Nick's like, touche.
His little tongue, too, is really
it's cute. Really cute.
It's cute.
So then we see them eating, and Charlie's having a rough time. He just looks really tired in that shot. And Nick says, do you want to eat somewhere quieter? And he says, yeah, okay. So they take their pizza and they go out and sit on the steps. And then we see the group chat. Tara Jones and 39 others in one hotel room. Even if it is this quote unquote very large hotel room, like they make it out like it's a big suite. 39 kids is a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. That I can only imagine the smell in that room.
Oh, no. Especially with the alcohol, too. Like, no.
Yeah.
No. Tara says, casual party in my room from 9 p.m. Room 317. Everyone's welcome and you can wear PJs. And Darcy says, please bring snacks if you have any, especially if you have Pringles. Which is just funny to me.
The add-in of the Pringles especially is hilarious.
And then they said, also, I have vodka. And someone named Katie says, yes, we will be there. And then Tom says, can't wait. I just think it's interesting that we've never heard of these people. OMG, Darcy, how did you get vodka? Darcy says, I have my ways. Jared says, yee, let's get lit.
I do think that the Alina is the one from the band? The Queer Intentions band.
But like Tom,
might be.
Katie,
but the other names are not. The other names are not familiar at all. But I think that might be. I think that might be the person from the band.
It looks like it too.
Yeah, it looks like it too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Charlie says they'll be there. Mm-hmm. So then we cut to that night, and Tao and Aled are leaving the hotel room. Charlie's putting on a jumper. Nick's putting on his socks, and Charlie says, "You go ahead. We'll meet you there." Aled's like, all right, and leaves. And then we get this cute little shot of him like snuggling into the collar of his hoodie, and it's just got like all the hearts in the background because he's like, I'm in Nick's hoodie. He says, you sure you don't mind me borrowing this? And Nick says, as long as you don't steal it like the other 3 that you have quote unquote borrowed. I actually quite like that one. Charlie says, I didn't steal them. I just forgot to give them back. And then I always hear Kit Connor's little delivery of, I just forgot to give them back.
Me too. I can't read this and not hear it in their voices. Like, it's the way they did it, their teasing, like, bantery way to talk was really good in this part, I felt like.
And then Charlie goes on over to the mirror and is like fixing his hair, and you see like Nick's head pop up in the mirror from the bed, and he's smiling, and he comes over from behind and pokes Charlie's dimples. Charlie says, excuse me, those are my dimples. And Nick just grabs him in a bear hug. And Charlie says, oh, hi, what are you doing? And Nick says, recharging. And then we get the little like neck kiss. Charlie just like soaking it in that panel. And Nick nuzzles into his neck, and they're both all blushy, which is cute. And Charlie says, we could stay here for a bit. And
I love it when there's like little narrations to what they're doing, like that he's nuzzling in. And I love that word nuzzle for some reason. Such a cute
word. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
He says, oh yeah? Why is that? And he says, because we haven't kissed in like 4 days. And Nick says, did you miss me? And Charlie says, well, it's not like you weren't here. And then they start kissing. And I love the way that she drew these panels of the, like, they're not the first one of them kissing. They're like not in a square. And then it turns into the like daydreamy, like flowy, circly squares of them like making out. And, Charlie like pulls Nick closer. Nick's like, Charlie, and he's like, more please. And Nick says more, and then drops him to the ground. He says, hey, and he says, come on, we said we'd go to Tara's party, didn't we? Teasing you is so fun. And Charlie's like the frustrated panel into the like one of them side by side where he's like clearly still so frustrated and blushy, and he says, I actually hate you. And Nick says, nah, you like me. He says, I really don't. Again, this is a scene, like, I feel like everything that they do is such a good page to screen adaptation, but like this specifically, the Paris bits are so good. I just like eat it.
Well, especially because we just did the rewatch of this, right?
I know,
like we were literally watching this scene a couple days ago, so it was fun to reread it right after that and to recognize how very, very similar it is. Like even just down to like the clothes they're wearing and stuff. They just it just fits it so well, you know?
Yep. So we see them knocking, and Tara and Darcy open the door. So we do get, that's a little bit different, that Tara's already in there and they're not like pretending she doesn't know there's a party in there, like at the show, when it's like loud music, everybody's loud, and they're like, she's here, and it just goes quiet. It's like, she knows what you guys are doing in there. It's not a surprise.
Yeah, right?
Charlie says, what the hell? Why is your room so massive? And she's like, well, we got lucky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 people. Still too many. That's still too many for a room like this. But we see they got snacks. It looks like somebody did bring Pringles. There's a can that looks like that. So Darcy got their Pringles. And then we see that they have a big balcony. They go out, they take some photos. They're all like giggling. And then there's the shot of Darcy chugging. Everybody's like, chug, 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 chug. And Tara's standing next to her looking confused going, it's literally just lemonade. Which is cute. And then we get Elle taking off her glasses as her and Tao are making out in the bathroom with the door unlocked. And then
even that is like a little detail that they kept in, is taking off the glasses. Like, that's just the attention to that kind of detail it's really good.
Yeah, as someone with glasses, you gotta take them off to make out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just do.
They gotta go. So it's Charlie walking in. Tao's like, get out! And Charlie's like, but I need to pee. And he says, too bad. And Charlie says, use a lock. And he's like, leave. And I'm like, okay, I know I said this when we covered the show, but you guys cannot hoard the one bathroom that's in this hotel room where teenagers are drinking. You just can't. You guys need to go get a different makeout spot.
Well, and I mean, I just don't know. Like, that's a weird place to want to make out. I mean, I get it. Teenagers will find wherever they can do it to do it. But, like, gross. Teenagers have been using that bathroom for a week.
I mean, I think it's common to go in the bath. I think about, like...
100% for teenagers. But, like, as
an
adult,
adults.
I'm like...
They go in the bathrooms at bars all the time and hook up. So, like...
I know.
I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, as a person who works in a field that knows about how things splatter and spray,
yeah,
just, yeah. I can't put it out of my head. But I say this as somebody that my first kiss was in a bathroom, which is hilarious. Like, my husband and I's first kiss was literally in a bathroom.
That's so funny.
I love the next little scene too, like where they're all like coupling up, you know?
Yeah.
But I also think it makes my like heart go, oh, for Isaac, because in the show, because watching that, you know?
I know, yeah. Also, they're like sitting next to each other, like touching fingers. And then they're like whispering, and they go out on the balcony. I love the balcony shots.
Me too. I think that's such a pretty, like the wrought iron, the way that Alice drew that, so pretty.
Yeah. They sit down, they're whispering, getting all closer, touchy, very flirty, super flirty. And then Darcy pokes their head out and says, sorry to interrupt your very obvious flirting. Thank you for saying it, Darcy. Thank you.
Right. I mean, they've got their hands all over each other. Like, look at Nick's got his hands all over Charlie's legs and everything. You don't do that with your friends, even if you're a touchy-feely friend.
Yeah.
At least boys don't, which I shouldn't like gender specify that in that way, but it is just true. Like, teen boys would not be touching each other's legs like that.
And then they whip out the alcohol. It's alcohol time with the smiley face in the bubble. And Nick's like, what actually is it, though? And Darcy says, vodka. Just put it in your lemonade. Charlie's like, is it gross? And Darcy says, yep. Which is adorable. They question each other, and Charlie's like, all right, I'm going to try some. And Nick says, are you sure? And he says, I just want to see what it tastes like. So Darcy fills them up and says, enjoy, leaves them to it on the balcony. And then we get this shot of them just like staring at it, being like, Charlie's like, have you ever drank before? Nick says, my mom lets me have a beer sometimes, like at Christmas. Charlie says, lucky. My parents never let me try it. They're so strict about stuff like that. And Nick says, well, your parents aren't here now. And so he takes a sip, and I love the panel of him being like, it's so good.
Yeah.
And then Nick is cracking up. Charlie's like, this is disgusting. Literally, why would anyone pay for that? And I'm like, I get it. Nick's like, I want to try. And he takes a sip and he's like, oh, that tastes like metal. It's like, maybe you have to learn to like it. That's what my mom says about red wine. Which is funny because it's like, vodka's never going to taste good. That's always going to taste bad. But red wine does taste good after you get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's really funny is because I know you're looking at it through on Tapas, but I'm looking through it in my book, and the panels line up like of the two of them, of their faces, like they're both of their grossed out faces are like right next to each other when you have the book open. It's kind of fun.
Adorable. And then Charlie leans over on Nick and is like, oh, well, I don't need to be drunk right now anyway. And he says, same, which is cute and is refreshing because teenagers at a party usually are like, I need it.
Yeah. And also, they should have thought back about this, a few years later, because then maybe a whole bunch of stuff would just not be the case.
True that. Okay, so a little while later, they're coming back in. Charlie's shivering. Nick says, how do you get cold so easily? Charlie's like, this is normal. I'm not a human heater like you. And they notice that everybody's like over at the door and that there is squabbling happening, which is a funny word. And we see Tara saying, yeah, well, no homophobes at my birthday party. And Darcy says, yeah, leave. And Harry's like, hang on, look, I just want to talk to Nick and Charlie. And again, I say, this is not Nick and Charlie's birthday. This is not their party. This is not their room. The birthday girl said, no.
Nobody's supposed to know that Nick and Charlie are Nick and Charlie, so.
Right.
Just another clue that they all really did know.
Yeah. So then we see Charlie's like, Harry? And Nick says, is his hair different? And Charlie says, yeah, it's less pointy. And they walk over, and Nick's like, what do you want? Harry's like, for fuck's sake, calm down. Can we just talk? And Nick like towers over him and looks and says no and goes to close the door. And we see, wait. And he like slaps his hand on the door and holds it open. And Harry says, I just wanted to say sorry for all the shit I said at the cinema. It wasn't cool. I know I said some homophobic shit. Honestly, my family's pretty homophobic, but I feel like I know better now and I won't say shit like that anymore. And we see Nick saying, Char, we don't have to listen to this. And Charlie's like, what do you want from us? Forgiveness? A well done? You said all that homophobic stuff to me, but it's okay because you said you're sorry. I'm glad that you realize the error of your ways, but it's not my job to give you a gold star. People like you made my life hell last year, and I shouldn't have to forgive anyone for any of it. You don't get to ambush me into forgiving you in front of everyone. One sorry doesn't make up for all the things you said. So congrats on your incredibly difficult realization that gay people actually do have feelings. And have a nice life. And he shuts the door. And then I also love the panel of him when he says have a nice life. And he's got like the stars around him. And he's like very confident looking. Mm-hmm. And he shuts the door and everybody cheers. This was kind of what he said to Ben in the show, right? They kind of flipped it. So to like combine this with the Ben storyline instead of the Harry storyline.
Which I think actually fits a little better, personally. The whole like forgiveness aspect of it, I think fits a lot more poignantly, at least for me, on the Ben storyline.
Yeah, so we get like a much shorter version of this with Harry at the door. But it still drives me insane that Ben is there. Because like in the show, I'm like, why is he at this party? It doesn't make any sense to me why he's at this party. And I know it's just so that they can be like, I dare you to kiss Ben, and him like have his freak out, but it really bothers me.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why that was a really inappropriate in real life. That would be a really inappropriate thing to have happen for everybody.
Yeah.
I do think there are elements of this scene that I have mixed feelings about personally. Like I love everything that Charlie says, But also, I think, because I totally agree that he shouldn't have to forgive, he shouldn't have to forget, he shouldn't have to hang out with these people, because even if you get an apology, even if he were to accept the apology, which he doesn't have to, but if he chooses to, those things still hurt him. Like, that trauma doesn't just go away because of an apology, right? But at the same time, from like Harry's perspective, like, I also understand why he wants to say, I'm sorry, I did the wrong thing. Can I try to be better, and how that would be hard to then have nobody say, yeah, we appreciate that you said you're sorry, please, like, to give him a second chance at all. Because I do think a lot of people, myself included, were like that at that age, because we didn't, like you said, my family's pretty homophobic. Like, some people just literally don't know any better. And it's not always their fault that they don't know any better. They've just never been given the chance to know anything other than what they've been told by their primary caregivers, who they, kids can't help it, who their parents are, and they can't help that the attachment that you have to a parent is to, most of the time, believe them and to trust them and to think that they're right about everything, because you're a kid. Like, you don't have a chance to know anything different. So all that to say, just like on the side, I think we don't need to see it, but we also, as people, have to be, I think we should be willing to give people second chances for them to grow, but not necessarily if you're the one who's been hurt by that person. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making it really clear what I was going to say, but like, Charlie shouldn't have to, because he's the one who's hurt. But I would love to see other people who Harry didn't mistreat like that, see him be a different person and be able to accept that about him.
And I do think they get what I mean with Harry too. Like, he later in the comics, he's a much calmer presence around them, even though they're still like, Harry's fucking dumb, but like, he's not malicious anymore after this. So I think he needed to hear this.
Definitely.
And I think that this speech would really drive home the importance of not importance, but like the heaviness of what he's done and how he's treated everyone. And so now moving forward, he's like, okay, I was a fucking piece of shit before this, and now I'm going to do better. And that takes time. Like, this is just the beginning of his journey of realizing, like, oh, these, like, just because he's gay doesn't mean he's not a person with feelings, and like, I'm learning all of this stuff, and that's going to take time for him to, like, because it's built into him, right? It's like a habit to, like, the way that his brain is wired to think. So that's going to take time to undo. And I think he needed to have this experience in order to get to where he goes. But I agree with you that, like, sometimes people need a second chance because they're learning. I just think I'm a big advocate for, just because they say sorry doesn't mean you have to apologize to them, and or accept the apology. And so that's like, it depends on the severity of what they've done and how long it's been going on.
And like I said, that's where I think there's a difference to me about whether Charlie has to accept his apology and allow him to come into their group, versus maybe like us as outsiders continually villainizing those who this was a bad thing they did. Doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't mean that they're not somebody who can grow from that and be somebody different too. Just because I want to see that or at least I want to see that to be acknowledged, maybe, because like, I'll totally own up to it. Like, a lot of people in this community know know some of my story, but like, I was raised super, super conservative Christian. Like, there there was no room for me as a queer person in that life. And like, there was no acceptability from my end for other people to be that way either, because like, that's all I knew. And I don't say it like as an excuse for having been a shitty person, but it was a reason. And like, I think there's a difference between an excuse and a reason. Like, I don't excuse my bad behavior towards people in the past, but there was a reason for it. And if this is Harry's reason, because it was like my reason, it doesn't excuse his behavior, but it doesn't mean he can't change and become a person, later on who looks at life differently. And yeah, I like to know that every character in any story who has really shitty behavior can have some kind of redemption in the future, because I think it's important to recognize that we're all humans and we all do shitty things sometimes. Yeah. And that doesn't make us bad people incapable of moving on and being better for the future.
Right. And it's the same with Ben in the show. Like, I hope he does go on to like be a better person and be able to be like in a healthy relationship and stuff, but I don't want to see it. I don't want Charlie to have to see it. Like, yeah. So we see them all cheering, but Nick is kind of like hanging back and he's thinking about when Charlie told him everything, and he says, I started to believe what they were saying, and it really made me hate myself last year when everything at school was shit. So he's like having that flashback. Charlie notices him kind of frozen and goes back over and is like, are you okay? He like grabs his hand and then Nick says, are you okay? Charlie's like, yeah, saying all that felt good. And then we get the cute little like Nick with a heart. He's just proud. That face just says proud. And he squeezes his hand. And Charlie says, don't look at me like that. Nick says, like what? And he says, like, you're about to say something stupidly romantic and cheesy. And Nick is like, and what if I am? And he says, Nick. And it trails off. Then the next page, he's like, and then Charlie covers his mouth and is like, Nick, I will literally die if you say one more cheesy thing. And Darcy's like, and we see, they're like standing in the middle of them. They're like, we're going to play Truth or Dare if you want to join. And like in this time, the whole room is organized into, a nice little circle there with Truth or Dare, spin the bottle. And I think this is interesting to me because I see it in shows and film a lot, Truth or Dare with the bottle, but I've never once played Truth or Dare with the spin. Like, spin the bottle is for making out. You make out with whoever it lands on. You don't spin a bottle for Truth or Dare. Yeah,
this is like a conglomeration of the two
like
games
a hybrid.
For us. Yeah, join in the two. But maybe this is something just not from our culture. Maybe this is the way the UK people would do it. I don't know.
I see it in TV and stuff all the time of them doing spin the bottle for Truth or Dare. But yeah, we just never did that. I don't know. So we see them going. Tara goes first. She says dare. And then we see Darcy and it just says drunk with an arrow pointing down at her. And they say nice. And she says, I dare you to remove your socks using only your teeth. Everyone's like, ew, oh my God, that's hard, oh my God. And Tara says, how tame. And then takes her sock off, beats Darcy over the head with it. And then it's Tal's turn. And Tal's like, well, there's no way I'm doing a dare, so Truth. And it looks like
maybe Alina.
Yeah.
I think so
I think so too.
That's
so
my guess.
Yeah, Alina would have been the one that spun it and said, have you ever kissed someone in this room? And both Tao and Elle are like, or get like, they have like a little anxiety bubbles behind them too, like just a hint of it. And Tao's like, yes. And everyone freaks out. They're like, oh, he's blushing. Oh my God, who was it? And he's like, that was not the question. Which fair. He has answered the question. He has completed his requirement. So they spin again and it lands on Charlie. And Charlie's little face is like, fucking try me.
Yeah.
Obviously a dare. And they say, I dare you to kiss James. And Nick's little face is like, oh. And Charlie says, what? And James over here says, I'm up for it. And they're like, you don't have to do this. And then other people are like, go on, it's just a little kiss. And then I'm guessing that this is his girl, like James's girlfriend. He's like, come on, Charlie, he's a good kisser. And he's like, shut up. And then James says, I'm not gay, so it's just for a dare. But for someone who's not gay, he's very keen for this kiss. And he's like embarrassed and a little disappointed looking when it doesn't happen. And I'm like, and Charlie's like, I don't want to, and pushes him away. James retreats. I like the retreat written up there. And he's like, okay, that's fine. I didn't care anyway, so
he was like looking for a story for later in school when he could be like, I kissed a gay boy. I'm norm. Yeah.
And they say, okay, but you have to do truth instead. And he's like, okay, fine. And they say, who gave you the love bite? And Tara's like, that's not cool. And Elle says, yeah, that's too far. And Charlie's like, and Tal says, you don't have to answer that. Aled is just staring. Drunk Darcy says, what was the question? Just still drinking more. And then someone asks, or Charlie says, it was someone on the trip? And they're like, come on, that's not an answer. And then Tara's like, that's too personal. Someone could get outed. They're like, what's the point of truth or dare if we're allowed to keep secrets? And they're like, it's not like anyone in here is going to tell anyone. And Tara's like, someone will tell. Just ask literally anything else. And they're like all arguing back and forth. And Nick is panicking and kind of processing and coming to terms with what he's about to do. And he says, I know who it was. And the room falls silent. And I love that he looks over at Charlie, and Charlie's like, he just like looks so happy in that panel where it says nod. He's like nodding, yes, you can do it. We've got our flowers, and they start to like come, like flow out of their hands and come all around them. Very beautiful, this page. They squeeze fingers, and Nick says, me, we're dating. And the whole room is like shocked. Even like their friends, because I think their friends like didn't expect this, right? And so they're shocked too, but for different reasons. And then everything explodes.
Yeah, and then it like erupts.
Yeah. Oh my God, I knew it. Really? How long have you been going out? Oh, a few months. That's so crazy. I never would have guessed that Nick was gay. Did you turn him gay? Charlie's like, nope, he's bi. So that's why you wouldn't kiss James. And then don't say, someone was like, oh my God, I knew it. And he's like, don't say that. It's so rude. But we were just saying the other day, shh. So I'm like, see, they saw the photos. Yeah. Nick, I didn't know you were gay. And Nick says, I'm bi actually, but yeah. Oh, you two are so cute together. And then we get someone saying, do you want us to keep it a secret? And they look at each other, and Charlie says, we're okay with being out. And Nick says, we haven't been keeping it that secret anyway. And then Darcy. I hate to interrupt this very lovely moment, but I feel really ill. Like, yeah, you've been chugging straight from the bottle for like an hour. And they all look at each other. I love Tara. I knew it. And they all run. Mr. Farouk! Run. And he's like, what? Sir, Darcy feels super sick. She feels like she's gonna be, or she feels super ill. She feels like she's gonna be sick. I think she might have food poisoning or something. And his face, why did I go into teaching? He's like, ugh. You guys they probably reek of alcohol. Especially Darcy.
That would be me exactly. If a teenager came to me and said that they were going to be sick and they were under my care, I'd be like, why did I do this? It's like my worst nightmare.
Yeah. He says, I'm going to pretend I believe that you have food poisoning. And then Mr. Joey's like, okay, just sit there and take a deep breath. I'll just find a bag just in case. And they throw up all over the bed. And they're both like, oh. And that's when Mr. Farouk has had enough. He's like, I want everyone out except for Tara and Darcy. Everybody else go back to your room now.
and Johnny's little face, the little drawing of him. Yeah. He's holding the bag and his eyebrows are raised. He's like, oh, too late. And I'm thinking, yes, how long have you been doing this? Like, you don't get them a bag. You send them to the toilet immediately.
Yeah, why did you even let them sit on the bed? You don't need to sit
on the bed to relax. Sit on the edge of the toilet. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. Anyways.
Mm-hmm. Or the balcony, even the fresh air. Yeah. Like, but no, never the bed.
No.
So we see the rest of them back at the room. They're like, party's over. And everyone's like, oh, no. And Charlie asks Tal, like, are you going to come back to our room? And Tal's like, I was going to stay here. Elle suggested we have a big sleepover. Charlie's like, I don't know. I'm kind of tired. And Nick's like, yeah, and I'm large. I need lots of space. And Charlie says, we'll see you in the morning. And I love Tal's face. Aled is just kind of like, yeah. And Tal was like, oh, no. No having sex in our room. Their faces, what? So cute. And then we get this like scene again. One of my favorite parts of the Paris trip is seeing this acted out of them like walking down the hallway, and then Nick like nuzzles into him and then picks him up and throws him on his back and like is still walking the whole time, and then gets him flipped around into like a piggyback. They get back to their room and they like Charlie like has Nick up against the wall right by the door and is like, you came out to an entire room of people. And Nick is like, yeah, I guess I did. And he says, you feeling okay about that? He's like, I think so. And Charlie's like, are you sure? And he like grabs a hold of Charlie, like at the collar, and is like, do you think it'll get passed around? Like, do you think everyone will know when we're back at school in September? And Charlie just looks at him and like gives him a little kiss on the cheek. Like, let me lighten this blow a little bit. But yes, yeah, I think everyone's gonna know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll know by the end of the night. You know, they're going to be sending texts
100%
to all their friends who are not there either. It's going to be out everywhere.
Anyone who's ever mentioned them is getting a text being like, remember that time you asked? Yeah, they're going out.
Yeah, it would just be, it's just typical of any kind of like quote unquote juicy gossip that it would just go around quickly, you know, like
100%.
It probably would be maybe not quite as big of a deal, but like if Nick and Imogen had gotten together on that trip, like they probably, a lot of them all would have still known within a few days too. Like it would have gone quickly through, you know?
Yeah.
So
Nick says, I think I'm okay with that. Nervous, but yeah, I'm okay. Are you feeling okay about it? About us being out? And Charlie says, I was scared. I was scared about you having to deal with homophobic stuff. And I guess I was scared about having that much attention on me again. But now, okay, maybe I'm still a little bit scared, and then Nick says, but we'll be okay. And the whole time Charlie's been like taking the hoodie off. And so the hoodie's like between them now. And he's like, yeah, we'll be okay. And they hug and it's very cute.
I really like that this shows how much they pay attention to each other. You know, like Charlie's asking Nick, it really was like a Nick thing, you know, that he came out.
Yeah.
But tangentially, that also impacts Charlie, and Nick is like, acknowledges how it affects him and how he feels. And then immediately is like, and how do you feel about it? Like, I just love that it shows that he's not so focused on how it affects himself that he doesn't recognize that it's not just about him, that attention will be back on Charlie. It's similar to the scene in the show, like in that little alcove where he's like, I knew I was stressed, but I didn't know how stressed you were. This is sort of like, I think this conversation kind of got moved to the alcove scene there. And I just really like how much it shows like how conscious of each other they are.
Yeah.
It's quite rare, especially early in a relationship, but especially for teenagers. Like teenagers just naturally, their brains are often so focused on themselves. Like they just can't, it's not even like a negative thing about them. It's just where their brain development is at, you know? But to just see that such a healthy thing of showing that they're taking care of each other. I really love that.
Yeah, for sure. Their communication's always so good. So they're hugging and they look over and they're in between the two beds. And then Charlie looks over and like smirks. He's like, since the room is ours tonight, he flops down in Nick's bed and the flowers pick back up around our panels. He says, I could sleep in this bed with you. And Nick is alarmed.
Well, especially coming right off of that comment that Tal made. Like, they don't have that in the show. And I do think that might have put a little more, if they'd kept that in the show, that might have given us a little more lead into why Nick responds so like, wait a minute. Because there wasn't really any reference to the fact that they might have sex before that. You know what I mean?
I think it was just like in the show, it was very much like the positioning that they were in and the fact that they were in a room alone.
Sure. But they have the same positioning in the comic. And I just think it shows where Nick's head is at with that stuff already to have said that, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he's like, oh God, is Charlie expecting that to happen?
Right.
Maybe he might have already had that in the back of his head more because Tao said it.
Yeah. And he says, since we wanted to on Monday, but then Tao is being Tao, and and then Nick is still frozen. So he says, I mean, we don't have to. And Nick is like, well, and comes over to the bed and is like, well, you're going to have to move over because that's my side of the bed. Charlie's like, oh, you're claiming a side already? And he's like, yep, I always sleep on this side. Charlie says, well, I got here first. Nick says, okay, and just body slams on top of him. And he's like, you're crushing me. And he says, it's my side. And they start wrestling. Charlie's like, what if I want this side? And then Nick says, well, then I guess you're just going to have to fight, and hits him with a pillow. And Charlie's like, oh, so that's how we're going to play, right? So then they start wrestling with the pillows and doing a pillow fight, rolling all around, giggling, and then Charlie flips him over and gets on top of Nick, and he says, do I win? And they start making out. And I love the flowers. I made sure that I got the flowers in my Why We Like This tattoo because it was like, they're so cute. So they're making out, and then Charlie says payback and starts to kiss Nick's neck. And Nick is freaking out. He's so stiff. He's got like anxiety, like marks radiating. You can like see it radiating from him. Charlie's like, is this okay? And this is one, I love the way that she did Nick's eyes in this scene when he says, yes, question mark, because they're like swirly. They're like little swirly.
They're like spirals.
His brain is scrambled.
Well, because probably on the one hand, like his body probably is responding and really wanting this, which I'm not to be too graphic, but I am certain that connection is what like makes him freak out, you know, like okay, wait a second, this is more than just like, this is something different. And with the positioning and the room to ourselves, and it's a bed and our parents aren't here, like nobody's coming in, like all of that is just probably spiraling through his head which makes it so perfect. And he's like, I like it. I just, you know, like, he's just not sure. And I love that. I love the way that it shows that. Yeah.
And I love that, and both in the show and in the comic, that Charlie, even though he says yes, he's like, that didn't sound very sure. Like, he's like, we need enthusiastic consent, not anxious, freaking out, saying yes, even though all of your body language says otherwise.
Absolutely. That's such an important thing, too, because that's really so often glazed over. The fact that there's a difference between wanting to and being ready to want to. Like, it's just really often not addressed. So I love that I really love, some people think that conversation is that they go on to have is like cringe and awkward and like shouldn't like, but even if it is cringe and awkward and maybe wouldn't actually happen in real life, it should happen in real life. So showing it is the way in which we make those kinds of changes to happen, to where teenagers will be like, wait a second, this is awkward, this is cringy, but I have to say something. And like, they will never know to do that if they never have seen it done.
Right.
So I think it's super important to show it.
Also, I hate to break it to y'all, but a lot of sex is cringe. Like,
of course.
lot of the things that happen before, during, and after sex are cringe, and they're never going to not be cringe, okay?
They're going to be awkward to talk about with somebody you've been together with for several years. Like, that's... But it doesn't mean you shouldn't have those conversations.
Yeah.
Like, and so I really appreciate that they show them pushing through that awkwardness.
Yeah.
Because even if that might have been not super realistic that it would have actually happened, it's, like I said, I don't think it will ever actually happen if teenagers don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
If all they see is stuff where teenagers are just, having a lot of sex, like in shows like Euphoria or whatever, that's what they're going to expect to happen, and not understand that that's very far from most reality.
Mm-hmm. So Nick says, I don't think I'm ready to do anything more than kissing yet. And that scrambles Charlie's brain, because he was not there yet mentally. And he's like, more than kissing. And the whole panel behind him is like, more than kissing, more than kissing, more than kissing, more than kissing.
He's like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah. And he says, no, me either. I wasn't thinking we would do that right now. And Nick says, oh. And Charlie, like, dismounts and rolls over, and they flop down beside each other. And they're, like, just awkwardly staring at the ceiling for a second. And then at the same time, they say, I do want to. And Charlie is like, I mean, eventually. And Nick is like, yeah, same. And Nick says, I'm just not ready yet. And Charlie's like, no, me either. And then Charlie says, and I'd only want to if you wanted to as well. If you didn't ever want to, then I wouldn't either. And he says, ugh, I'm interrupting our makeout time by talking about deep stuff. And Nick is like, no, I started it. Charlie's like, I'm so embarrassing. And he's like, I think we both are, to be honest. And then we get a, why are we like this? And Nick is like, no idea. And they giggle. And this is when the flowers come back in. They're like, they're past the awkward now, back into cute. They're like cuddling. And then Charlie says, kissing's still good though, right? And then they start kissing again. We see them like getting all tangled up and cuddly.
Is this kind of like a teeny version of the first scene in HR when they, have a little consent talk on the bed? Like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I like that this is a pre-version of that kind of consent conversation. What do you want to do? What do you not want to do? And those are the kind of conversations that kind of have to keep happening from the time you start, or should keep happening from the time you start a relationship until all the way through one.
Yeah, forever. Yeah. So we do sex ed at my job, and there's a little video we played that talks about pizza and like how you and your best, like, puts it in a non-relationship way. Like, you and your best friend get pizza together every Friday. Like, how would you feel if, you get the same thing every time, and all of the sudden they show up and it's like something completely different and you had no idea. So there's like that. And they also talk about like, you get your own pizza and they get their own pizza. And what if they just started eating your pizza without asking? Like, how would you feel? And so like there's a lot of like metaphor in that we use about how like even, and you have to talk about it, right? You can't just be like, oh, we've gotten a pepperoni pizza every Friday for 6 years together.
And what if you all of a sudden add pineapple and you're a person who hates pineapple? You would not want to have
exactly. You have to like
continue to say yes. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. This is a really good metaphor.
So I think about that a lot. Just with like, do you want to try a little mushroom on the pizza tonight? Like you got to ask questions and make sure that they're down for what you're wanting to do, because you never want to just jump scare someone in the middle.
Right. Well, and I like that that Charlie does that. Like, okay, so you don't want to do anything else, but kissing,
But we can
that
still
you
kiss,
do still
right?
want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like kissing isn't too much for you right now.
Yeah.
And then I love how they show like their legs entwined together and stuff. That's just
super cute.
It's like a physical and an emotional connection that's a little bit different when you sort of entwine yourself like that.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut back over to Tara and Darcy. They are coming out of the teacher's hotel room. Darcy's crying. They're like, am I going to get in trouble? And he sighs and says, well, you can't get in trouble for having food poisoning, can you? And they're like shook. And then he's letting it slide. He's like, get a good night's sleep, girls. I guess they were going back to their room, not coming out of his. But he leaves them, goes back to his room. Darcy starts crying again. Tara's like, hey, what's wrong? Do you need to be sick again? And Darcy says, I'm sorry for ruining your birthday. And Tara's like, hey, it's not ruined. And Darcy says, I'm the worst girlfriend ever. Tara's like, shh, I still love you. Darcy says, even when I smell like sick. And Tara says, even then, and then kisses her. Like, ew, no. I need Darcy to go in and brush her teeth before they kiss.
I do actually too. This is really interesting. I just thought of, like, at this point, reading a comic and even in the show, right? We don't really know what Darcy would have to deal with if they went home and did get in trouble. Like,
it's true.
This would be like a major offense. I mean, this would be a major offense to a lot of kids' parents. I mean, I imagine even Sarah would lose her shit over this. But
when it's already a hostile environment.
Yeah, this would be like, if I was Darcy, I would have been panicked way beyond what some others might have. So, because I was raised in a house kind of like Darcy's. So
yeah. So we see like giggle, 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 and we see Tao and Elle are sharing a bed. Elle says, stop, I can't stop laughing when you're laughing. And Tao says, my stomach hurts. And then they like whisper something else and start laughing again. And then we like see there's a page break. We go to like a new set of panels. And he says, what were we even laughing about? And she's like, I cannot remember. And they start giggling again. We see Sahar is like cuddled up reading Radio Silence, which I think is super cute, especially considering we're about to pan over to Alec.
outside.
Cute. He's just sitting out on the balcony. He looks very content, and he is listening to some music, which I think is interesting that they flipped that, because Isaac is very much not content. I don't think, like, he's in a lot of pain in that scene. But here, Aled looks more than happy to be sitting out there looking at the stars, listening to music by himself.
I think it shows there's quite a difference. Like, up until this point, maybe not as much of a difference in their characters, but
they're very different.
At this point, there's quite a deviation in their storylines.
So then we go back over to the teachers. They're having some wine, sipping on some wine. Mr. Ajayi's like, well, I suppose I should head down to reception and ask for some fresh sheets. And Farouk says, I mean, you could just share my bed. And Ajayi is, like, shocked that he's shooting his shot here. And I think that is why Farouk is like, oh, and, like, gets up and is like, no, I'm sorry, stupid idea. I'll go get the sheets. Like, run, get out of here. And Ajayi grabs him by the hand and pulls him back over and says, I don't think it's a stupid idea. And then we see them, like, kind of have, like, a little giggle, and then they start to kiss, and we, like, slowly pan out as they shut the curtains. And I'm like, no. In the show, too, I'm like, take care of the throw up first. Do not hook up with a bed full of throw up in there. That's going to smell awful. Especially, you're closing the balcony. No. Yeah. Now you're hotboxing vomit smell.
I can't even with that. Oh my God.
There's no way.
Also, I'm just noticing that, obviously not show Ajayi, but comic Ajayi looks very similar to, like, adult Charlie, like grown up Charlie that we see later on. And the way she, like, I could just really see, like, in the wearing the sweater he's wearing and the kind of glasses. And having a little bit. It reminds me a lot of the pictures that she drew of
them when they're older.
Yeah, when they're older and they're like drinking coffee, and their kid is like, "Dads, I have to go to school," or whatever. Yeah. It reminds me a lot of that drawing.
Yeah, I could see that. That jumper in particular too, with the like half moon squiggles on it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then we cut back to Nick and Charlie. They are whispering in the bed. I want to stay up all night. Same. And then we cut to them snoozing, which is relatable. Mm-hmm. So they're cuddling, sleeping, and we cut on over to Paris day 7. Come on, onto the bus. We have a train to catch. And so they're all getting back on the coach. And then this kid walks up to Nick and Charlie and is like, Nick and Charlie. And they're like, oh, hi, Malik. And he's like, is it true you're dating? And Nick's like, yeah, we are. And he says, that's so cool. And then walks off. And Charlie says, wow, does this mean I'm a cool kid now? Nick says, nah, you'll always be a nerd. It's so good. He's like, shut up. And they take off.
I like how Ajayi, just to jump back to the very beginning of that part, Ajayi's yawning in the very beginning. I'm like, yeah, you are. You were not sleeping.
Yeah, the late night. Late night. And then we hear this like little conversation as they take off to go home. I can't believe all of this happened because you gave me a love bite. And Nick's like, I'm still sorry about that. Charlie's like, it's fine. At least we don't have to make some cringy Facebook announcement. And Nick says, you don't want to change our relationship status on Facebook? Wow, I guess I've been internet dumped. And he says, Nick. And he says, guess we're going to have to split up since we'll never be Facebook official. He says, oh my God, stop. He's like, you're not even going to put my initials in your Insta bio next to a little heart emoji? And he's like, absolutely not. And I think it's just so funny and like telling of when she was writing this because like, remember when Facebook official used to be like legit? Like people used to actually put a lot of stock in that, which is wild because like, I never get on Facebook anymore. We have a family group and I like, get on to check those messages to make sure like what's going on with my family. But I never scroll. I never update. Like, I don't know.
Me either.
I have no idea what my bio says. It's like, I have no idea.
I'm basically on it only for the connection to the fanfic community that it's on. Yeah. There's a fanfic group. Other than that, I don't do like hardly anything on it at all. Sometimes I'll get tagged and then like, you know, or like a family member will message me and it'll be like a week later and I'm like, oh, I guess I have a message on Facebook because I just never open it. I don't even have it on my phone because I just never use it.
Yeah, that's fair. So we see them arrive back home and all their parents are waiting and Sarah's there with Nellie. And I know
just made me cry.
I'm like, great.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh no.
Man.
Oh.
They hug and Nick says, text me later. And Charlie says, I will. And he gets in his car and opens his phone to Google and Googles how to tell someone I love you. And he's all blushy. And then our flowers take us back over to Sarah's car and Nick is scrolling through all the Instagram posts and he notices that Charlie's plate is full in almost all the photos. And so he opens Google and starts looking up eating disorders. And that's where we end. Such a heavy ending, knowing what's coming. Like, it's heavy without it, but like really knowing like where we're going next is like, oof, here we go.
Yeah. It's like it had so many beautiful things and then ended on a quite
heavy,
uncomfortable note. Yeah. And then the picture on the end of the book is Nellie and Sarah and Nick, where it says that Heartstopper will continue.
I hate that. All right. Well, we're at the end. Did you have a favorite quote?
I can remember my favorite panel faster, probably.
Let's see. There's a lot of good stuff. I think I'm going to go with the speech to Harry.
Okay. Well, that's a good one. It's not one of the ones I was going to pick. So, okay, there's a lot of sentimental ones, but I'll go with my favorite funny one. which is where Tal says, well, Charlie, I'm glad you found a boyfriend as idiotic as you.
That's good. That's good.
Because there's too many sentimental ones to choose from, but that one I think is that's like my favorite, like, funny line, because I think it just is so perfect for their relationship, you know?
Mm-hmm. Like, also the consent section is also really good.
Yep.
And then what was your favorite panel?
My favorite panel is the coming out panel, where he says, where their fingers squeeze, and he says, I don't know the number of the panel because I'm looking at it in my book.
It looks like it's 858.
Okay, that's my favorite, where their fingers are squeezing and all the flowers are all around them, and they say, me, we're dating. I have that coloring picture too, and it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. So I was also, I had that one clocked, but just to like switch it up a bit, I also really like the panel of Charlie when he tells Harry to have a nice life. I don't know if you can see it. And he's got like the stars around him, and he's like, oh, I don't know.
I love this.
It's 8:42, but
I love the smirk on his face. Like I just feel like I could really see
Joe.
Yeah, I just really see Joe's face. Anytime Charlie smirks, it's like I feel like I'm just constantly in awe of how perfect all the casting went for this. Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a fun section to cover, and I'm excited to continue moving forward with you.
Yay! Thank you for letting me be on these. I'm very excited.
I'm excited to get back into them. It's been a while, obviously. All right. I guess that about wraps us up for today. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.